Welcome to the Melinda Eitzen Show. I'm Melinda. Today we are so fortunate to have licensed professional counselor Keri Riggs with us. Hello, Keri.
Hi, it's good to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Well, I know as part of your practice, you help people through transitions.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
So we have lots of different kinds of transitions. We transition from getting out of our bed to getting up and going to get our coffee. We transition from getting into the car to driving our car to the office. And we, at the end of the day, the same thing. We get out of our car maybe if we're not working from home. And so there are the day-to-day transitions that we don't even think about. But then there are the bigger transitions that we might not always even recognize are things that we're going through that can be small or monumental. That can be in our personal life, in our professional life, where there are a lot of different changes happening. It can be anything from graduation from high school, making a change in a job, having a new baby, getting married, moving in with someone, having a health crisis, a sudden diagnosis, something happening in your extended family that's unexpected. So we used to live in a time where life was a little bit more predictable and consistent. And one of the authors that my colleagues and I kind of stumbled upon is Bruce Feiler, and his book was called Life is in the Transitions. And he said we have some that are kind of expected, but then people will experience life quakes, which he called, the big things that happen in our lives that really how we learn to deal with them helps us to grow and transform in ways that we never would have if we hadn't been through that transition.
So as you know, I'm a divorce lawyer. I've heard, and I tell people this, that divorce is one of the top 3 biggest transitions that we have. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes.
It's a big change, even when it's the right decision. And some of the transitions you just mentioned are positive. Graduating from high school, positive. Getting married, positive. That doesn't mean they're easy.
Right. So I think that when life hands us something that we maybe didn't expect, it can create a lot of anxiety. It can create a sense of not having control. So when some of the different kinds of transitions would be one that is planned, one that you know about. You might have those that you are anticipated but did not happen, and those are some of the more difficult ones.
Oh, meaning you wanted it to happen.
And then it didn't.
Oh,
right? So you
yeah.
think of the high school athlete that is sure that they're going to get the college scholarship, and then they blow out their knee in the final game.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or someone who was expecting a big promotion and was maybe even, it was suggested that they would get that, and then all of a sudden a new CEO comes in and the offer's off the table, or a relocation.
Or they think they are getting married and then they break up.
Exactly. Ugh. Right. Yeah. So you have some that then are just surprises, things that you didn't ever see coming. And again, that can be something with a medical diagnosis or something happening to a loved one in your family. Obviously, the examples like a sudden death in the family. So how we deal with each of those different kinds of transitions, makes a difference in how we get through them. And so part of what I do is help to support people in just even understanding and being able to say, this is a period of time. They call it the messy middle. So William Bridges, in his book in 1980, I looked it up this morning, my first copy 45 years ago, obviously it's been updated now, talks about the ending, the neutral zone, and the new beginning, and some of the different feelings, thoughts, behaviors that people experience when they are going through each of those stages. So when there is an ending, there's grief, of course.
I used to joke with my mom. She was going through something horrible. Maybe when she had cancer twice, so maybe it was cancer. And I said, hey, if you're going through hell, you just better keep going. There's no option, right?
Right.
We have to get through the transition. We're going to go through it. And what you try to do is help people go through it in the best way possible.
Right.
Get out on the other side.
And just have confidence and faith that there is another side. Because when we're in the middle of it, again, all of those different feelings, anxiety, apprehension, fear, so much fear, worry, obsessing, trying to predict the future, trying to control other people, none of which really works. So in that neutral zone, which really we call the messy middle, because it is messy, because what you have left behind is what's familiar, and you don't know yet what the new is going to be. And you have to pull back, sit back, and you can't really rush that.
And all of these things, I mean, not all of these things are going to happen to one person, but some of these things are going to happen to everybody. If you live long enough, that's what my law partner, Lisa Duffy, said to me. If you live long enough, these things happen. And I was like, oh, that's true. Now that I'm 58, if you live long enough, you're going to lose family members, right? Your parents are going to hopefully predecease you instead of the other way around. Things are going to happen health-wise to you or to a loved one. People are going to lose jobs. They're going to get new jobs. They're going to move. So if you live long enough, you're going to go through a transition. There's no avoiding it.
Exactly. The hardest part, so sometimes when people come into counseling for depression or anxiety, or even that looking for where meaning in their life, which happens in some of the later stage. Well, it happens at lots of different stages, but especially 40, 45 and up.
Oh, the midlife crisis.
Right, which Brené Brown calls a midlife unraveling.
Oh.
Which I like unraveling better than crisis, although unraveling is not pleasant either. But what it does, you have to take a pause. You get a chance to explore what's working for you, what's not working for you. Utilizing your support and all of your past experience in your life, the benefit of being midlife and older. I work with a number of women 40, 45 and up in perimenopause and menopause, because that's one of the other big changes that people experience. And they might also be experiencing other things happening in their family. That could also be an empty nest time where kids are leaving and your identity was being a parent, or your own parents are declining. So when you're experiencing several different things all at the same time, it's an extra layer of challenge. When we ran this pilot program a couple of years ago on helping people to learn how to navigate transitions, we asked them what were two of the things that were most helpful, and one of those was being able to say, "Oh, I'm going through a transition."
Right, just realizing transition is hard, even if it's positive.
Yeah,
that helps me a lot when I'm like, even we got a new phone system at the office. I know that sounds ridiculous, but
it's a big transition.
At first, everybody's like, the phone won't work. Well, we just don't know how to use it yet.
What a great example, right? Oh. And then if there's other stress at home while that is happening, you don't feel like you've got your feet underneath you.
Yes.
And you need. So what are the things that help people during that time? One of the things that people explore that I adore, I'm the daughter of a musician, is the arts.
Oh, I love the arts.
So when we think about music, books, poetry, theater, these stories they're all stories of people who face some kind of a challenge that's unexpected. In the trainings, we talked a lot about the movie Frozen and the song "Let It Go," and why was that such an incredible phenomenon?
Yes,
and it was because there's this resonance of a character who has been holding herself back out of a lot of fear, and then when she discovers her power and says, "Really, I can't be inauthentic anymore. I can't hide." Then that's when magic happens. And so theater, I think of so many different stories. I don't know if you have a favorite book or movie that there's a character that is going through something, which is like the whole definition of theater, right? That you identify with this character, and are they going to get through what has happened? How are they going to get through it? What internal resources do they have? What external resources do they have?
I love Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim.
Oh, yes.
It's one of the greatest musicals ever. Well, first of all, he's brilliant. I mean, the writing and the music is so brilliant. But there's so many characters in that story doing all kinds of crazy things. And you're like, what's happening? Out there in the woods, out of their normal day-to-day, trying to solve some big problem, or the world's going to end, of course. So
and they're not happily ever after. You know, the whole theme of Into the Woods is this is what happens in the fairy tales after the end.
The story closed.
Right.
The
Yeah.
backstory.
I love that one too. Right. And so when we can think of those things, the stories and the books and poetry, I like, of course, Mary Oliver, John O'Donohue, David White. There is a sense of connection with the generations that came before us, the people who might not have experienced exactly what we're going through, but the themes are the same.
Well, that's one reason the Bible holds up, right?
Yeah.
It's think how long ago, written so long ago, but the stories still apply. And so that is powerful as, hey, people have been having some of these struggles a long time.
Right.
So it's helpful. So if somebody comes to counseling to you, they've realized, ooh, this is hard. I'm going through a transition, good or bad transition. And they come to you, what tips do you give them? Like, what do you tell them to do? Give our audience a couple of tips.
Sure. Well, you know, as I was saying, I adore the arts. But we have to start with the basics, and it's a little bit boring because
Breathing. That's what I tell people. Let's do a breathing exercise.
although people who have experienced a lot of trauma, sometimes the breathing isn't their best coping strategy. It's better to have movement, and certainly an environment where they feel safe. So we need the basics of, are you getting sleep?
Yes.
Are you getting some exercise and movement for your body, which we're designed to do? And how are you eating? Once we kind of get those things at least halfway managed, you know, some people do like journaling, and there are all sorts of types of journaling. Some people, some form of creative expression. It doesn't have to be writing. It can be art. It can be so many different things. Obviously, seeking support of trusted people who don't just want to give you advice and share their own experiences with you, but people who can really be supportive.
That's one reason, to me, it's so helpful to go to a counselor. A counselor you're paying that has no agenda in your life. It's not your mother who has an agenda for you. It's not your sister. It's not your friend. And is trained. They have education and background to help people. Because sometimes our trusted family or friends, they have an agenda for you, even if they're not aware of it, right? That they want you to be a certain way or have a certain life or whatever else. Or they have their own fears that they're attaching to you. But when you go to a counselor that you pay money, they are there just to listen and help you. It doesn't affect their life what you decide.
It's true. Yeah, in some ways similar, I think, to an attorney.
Yes.
It's like whatever you decide, you know, this is your life, and you're the person who experiences the consequences of your choices, and I don't have control. So that illusion of control, it's tough to come face to face with. We encourage people, I think, as counselors, to also explore their resilience, because when I point out to someone, if you're over the age of 30, you've been through some stuff, and you may not be happy with how you got through it, but you got through it, right? And so being able to ask people questions to help them remember, who they are and what internal resources they do have, like asking the questions. So when you failed the ninth grade, what did you learn about yourself from that? When you got the divorce, how did you know that was the right decision for you? Right? Really, sometimes people need to be in the quiet and they need to suffer and be in their pain and angst, but not get stuck there. And we try to help them for sure to not get stuck there, and also just to remember. One of my favorite authors says that there are three things that every person needs. We need a sense of safety. We need a sense of satisfaction in our life, which is another sort of some of those existential pieces that good counselors can help people to explore by asking questions and helping people look at their history. And then we need connection. We need connection with other human beings. And that would be a whole separate podcast, wouldn't it, for us to talk about the need for connection, genuine connection. And in the small group that we had of 8 people on the initial transitions pilot, their vulnerability with each other and their support for each other was probably, in addition to the curriculum, of course, but was one of the most valuable things of like knowing and understanding that other people, they may not be going through exactly the same thing as you are, and certainly not in the same way, but the common humanity and the compassion and the witnessing are incredibly valuable in helping people get through difficult times.
One thing I've noticed in my practice, so I've been doing divorce work for 31 years, is people sometimes are resistant to change or transition, even when it's clearly the best answer. They are so, I don't know if it's fear or what it's fear. Keri says fear. They're fearful of the unknown, right? What if I did get a divorce, what would happen? And, sometimes people say to me, oh, people just hurry to divorce. That has not been my experience. They wait way too long. They stay miserable way too long. Maybe they're fearful about money. Like, oh, if I get divorced, I won't have any money. Or will I have any money? Or their spouse has said, I'll take the children from you, which isn't a thing, but they don't know that. They haven't
a lot of threats,
it. Yes.
Right, without information.
Yes. So how do you help people who maybe need to make a transition? They're not in the throes of it yet. They're stuck.
When we talk with people about different obstacles to getting through transitions and that resistance, you're exactly right that fear is the primary fear of what might happen or what might not happen, is one of the biggest obstacles there. In the recovery community, they say fear stands for face everything and recover.
Oh.
But the other thing that they say fear stands for is forget everything and run. And so we get to point out, there's the logical aspect of it. What, to be able to ask somebody, what do you think that you're afraid of, or what do you think is in the way? Yes. And so you will get the initial kind of obvious excuses, and natural and understandable fears. And of course, we've got to work with people at that level first, because when you're in your feelings so much and facing a potential transition, it can bring up so many different feelings from things that happened past childhood. I hate to say it, therapists can't get away from the childhood. So we have to talk about that a little bit, and really, again, looking back at resilience and having people notice that they're telling themselves probably the worst version of the story, forgetting that they have the ability to author their own story.
I can't tell you how many people, when they first talk to me, they call, we're just on the phone or the Zoom. It's a 30-minute consult, but I answer their immediate, I always say, what are your burning questions? Because I know they have one, right? And it's that thing. Will I really have no money? Will I really lose my kids? And when I educate them, I cannot tell you how many say, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Like getting 30 minutes of information.
It's so powerful. Information is powerful. And so sometimes getting people into their I guess I usually say, especially when I'm training upcoming counselors, you have people that are very much in their feelings and living there and stuck. And our job is to help them to get back in their head.
Yes.
And then you have the people that are completely in their head. And our job is to help them find their feelings so that they have some kind of, because the best decisions are made from both.
Balanced.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be balanced.
One of my clients was talking about, when we were talking about, well, what are all of the different obstacles to getting through a transition, and do you get through it successfully? Sometimes people will say this too will pass. It might pass like a kidney stone, right. But it will pass. And so the group and some different people have said, we said, what is the number one obstacle you think that you face? And one woman beautifully just captured it. She said, the person in the mirror.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary worrying in the world, right?
Sure.
That people worry about all these things that are never going to happen. It's such a waste of energy.
Because the thing that you never saw coming is the one that will take you to your knees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned is sometimes when we're going through a transition or we're having a traumatic event that is causing the transition, it could bring up old trauma. And I really noticed that my mother passed last year, and it really brought up my dad's death, which was 14 years ago.
Of course.
It's like losing the second parent. You're like, oh, now I don't have any parents. And that really surprised me that would happen. And then I read a little bit about, oh no, one thing can bring up another thing. But I worked through it, I think, in a very healthy way. I've been grieving in a healthy way. I feel so much better. It's been over a year now. I feel so much better. So there is some truth to that year. I don't know why a year is magical, but I'd heard that, like, get past it a year, you'll feel better. And I do. Now I feel like I can just think happily about
You've
them.
been through every major
First.
Yes. Right? The first Christmas, the first holiday,
Yes.
the first birthday, the first anniversary of their death,
Yes.
or diagnosis, right? And so our culture doesn't honor the grief process the same way some other cultures do. It's like you get 2 days off or 3 days off, and then you're expected to be back on your game, and it just isn't that simple.
No, and I found that a lot of other people, at my age, it's not unusual to lose a parent. A lot of other people said, oh, it was hard when I lost my parent, or, it's a common thing that most people are going to experience or have. Right. So I thought other people were very understanding and, had their own journey. But to your point, you can't just stay home for a month. I mean, I have to get back to it. So we were back to it pretty quick. But it's not a constant. It just comes when it comes, Yeah. In waves, I think.
You're exactly right. Exactly right.
So if somebody did come to you or another counselor to work through a transition, how long would they expect to be in counseling? And I know that probably varies by person, but I'm assuming it's not the rest of their life.
No. I'm a big fan of clients coming in and out as they need to, right? So you hear about people who say, well, I graduated, from my counseling. It depends a little bit on what internal and external resources a person has. If you have a good support system, sometimes it's a good, healthy support system. You do heal and bounce back a little bit faster. If you have experienced, mentors or extended family members with wisdom that they can share and that you can access in conjunction with the counseling. And of course, sometimes medication is an appropriate referral as well. it depends on, are you going through one transition? Is it something that brings up those prior experiences that maybe weren't as either weren't dealt with or weren't as healed? It kind of the new event picks at a prior wound in a relationship, work, family. So I think that you can get a very good clue about how long the process is going to take in 4 to 6 sessions.
I see.
Yeah.
Sometimes with our divorce work, the people are not only getting divorced, but maybe, and I'm going to be stereotypical, often the woman more than the men. Although now we're having some where it's reversed because we're in modern times. One of the spouses has to get back into the workforce, or they need to upgrade their money-making ability.
For sure.
Because they haven't had to. That just wasn't the family arrangement. But now, they don't have...
The economics don't lie, right?
Yes, they have to go back to work. And I think that would be very stressful to not only, be mourning the relationship, but also have to re-enter the workforce when maybe you're not at the top of your game because you're going through a divorce.
So that's one of those great examples of going through two transitions at the same time.
Yes.
Right. And so it depends a little bit on how the person was doing prior to the transitions, right? That can make a huge difference. If overall you have somebody who is physically and mentally healthy and has some good insight, they really may be able to, they really may just need the combination of the extra support and some tools that we can give them. And some people, and I'm one of them, process better out loud.
Yes.
And so there are people who can problem solve and in their head, and then there are other people. I like the quote by Anne Lamott. She says, "My mind is a dangerous neighborhood you don't want to wander into alone at night."
No, I think the first time I went to counseling, I thought there is something strangely miraculous about just saying it all out loud. One, it would feel in my brain disorganized and whirly. And then when I would say it out loud, that would kind of release itself and it would suddenly get a little clearer.
Exactly.
I don't know what that's about. I wonder if you just said it to yourself even out loud.
Well, there is power in witnessing, right? I mean, tribal, if we go way back, rituals, being around other people in those big life transitions, grieving, healing, medical crisis. I don't know that the tribal people had financial crisis like we can and do, or economic challenges or political challenges in the same way. I imagine there has always been a struggle for power. And so being in community, holding other people accountable. I mean, sometimes even in counseling, we move a little into the coaching realm as well of some, I call it gentle accountability. You said that you were going to reach out to a friend that you really wanted to this week. Did you do that? Right? Or, yeah.
Where all is your practice area? Dallas, surrounding counties?
My office is in Richardson.
Okay.
It has been at Campbell and 75 for over the last 10 years. But as happened with many people over the course of the pandemic, a lot of us are continuing to do virtual sessions, which means that we can talk with anyone in the whole state of Texas.
Oh, that's great.
So
you do in person and virtual?
I do.
Either.
Yes.
That's great. Well, we're going to put your information on the screen so people can find you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, because everybody is going through transitions, and it's sure nice to know there's help out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Whatever transition you're going through or the next one coming up, just keep in mind you don't have to do it by yourself. There's great people like Keri out there who can help and just help you on your journey to get through to the other side. Let us know if there's any feedback you have or anything you'd like us to talk about on the Melinda Eitzen Show, and we'll see you next time.